It has been declared a disaster city. Horrific images continue to come in from Beirut. Perhaps even more disturbing than seeing a mushroom cloud over that city are the images that we're getting now of the desperate search through rubble and remains for survivors. Dozens remain missing. Hundreds of thousands have been displaced from their homes and thousands more are injured. The hospitals there are already on overload from COVID cases, and as you can imagine, the death toll is rising. At least one American is said to be among the victims. The earth-shaking blast that ruined multiple neighborhoods started in a warehouse, and many are now asking questions about that warehouse. Inside, 2,700 tons of a highly explosive unsecured compound, which has emerged as the likely cause of that blast. Our senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell leads us off tonight with the very latest.
Tonight, a state of emergency as Beirut counts the dead and desperately searches for the missing after that apocalyptic blast. Everyday life erased in a flash. The mushroom cloud and red pillar of smoke seen, heard and felt for dozens of miles. Buildings blown in half, cars crushed, glass lining the streets, but above all, lives torn apart. In what should have been the best day of her life, a bride poses for her wedding photos. As the blast rips through, she's seen running for her life. A priest live streaming a service when the shockwaves hit. Stained glass raining down as the church shakes. An American living in Beirut describing the nightmare.
I genuinely thought the building was going to crumble down while I was in my own home. I ran down to the street to see what was going on, kind of took cover because so much glass was falling from a bit of everywhere and so much glass on the streets.
At least one American citizen's known to be among the more than 130 dead. Overwhelmed hospitals forced to turn away the wounded. And more than 250,000 people are now homeless in a country already in the depths of an economic crisis. ITN's Emma Murphy is there.
The streets are decimated in this area. It's one of the main restaurant areas. We came here last night, it was deserted. Today they're just trying to check if there are any bodies still in the wreckage of the buildings behind me.
This is all that remains of the port where the blast happened. A lifeline for a country that imports almost all its food, now reduced to rubble. These before and after satellite images show parts are all but razed to the ground. As the shell-shocked citizens of the city come to terms with their devastating loss, the Prime Minister's vowing to find and punish those responsible. Port officials placed under house arrest until an investigation determines who's to blame. We're now learning there were more than 2,500 tons of ammonium nitrate stored here. A highly explosive chemical often used in fertilizers, and the same chemical used in the Oklahoma City bombing. But the amount stored in Beirut, over 1,000 times more. In 2013, the FBI demonstrated what an explosion with 250 pounds of ammonium nitrate would look like. The explosion in Beirut yesterday was 22,000 times more powerful. The blast felt more than 100 miles away in Cyprus. The ammonium nitrate was confiscated from a freighter and stored at the port for 6 years, but nothing appears to have been done to secure it. As the investigation intensifies, some officials are pointing to gross negligence. But last night, President Trump saying something else.
It looks like a terrible attack.
US Defense Secretary Esper saying today most believe it was an accident. America, like others, offering desperately needed help in a country gripped not just by the COVID-19 pandemic, but also a political and economic crisis.
It's tragic, it's sad. We've been on a roller coaster of emotions for a while here, so from the sadness to the anger to being scared, we were all mortified, to be honest. It's definitely an experience I wouldn't wish on anyone.
As days of mourning and months, if not years of healing lie ahead, one grandmother plays Auld Lang Syne. A serenade for a shattered nation amid the ruins of her apartment. A moment her granddaughter called simply beauty from the ashes.
Just some unbelievable scenes playing out there. Ian Pannell joins us now. Ian, was anyone concerned that this highly dangerous material was being stored at a port not far from where a lot of that city's food is brought in?
Yeah, I mean, more and more information seems to be coming forward. We now know that the material was there for at least 6 years. We understand from some of ABC's own reporting that it was taken from a Russian ship that had been taken into port. There's more than 2,500 tons of this highly dangerous substance. But yes, reports out of Lebanon quoting different multiple warnings saying that there had been people concerned about the way in which this material was stored, that people had raised the alarm, that letters had been written, and that clearly no action had been taken. Now, we don't have that verified at this point, but I've heard it from sources, and it's now being reported in the Wall Street Journal, Associated Press, also reporting this tonight, and that would tie in with the fears of many people in Lebanon that this endemic corruption and mismanagement, the kind of thing that brought people out onto the streets in their thousands, is the very same thing that accounts for this dangerous substance being held in the port next to where all the material comes into the country and very close to residential areas and not being kept properly, and we see the consequences of that.
Yeah, and speaking of those residential areas, what can you tell us now about the needs in Beirut where so many are suddenly homeless?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I can't stress enough quite how difficult life already was for ordinary Lebanese people. A lot of them have lost their life savings. They can't get their money out of the bank. They've lost their job. There are shortages of food. Electricity, the power is only on for 2 hours a day. And then suddenly this happens and they're made homeless. So the humanitarian needs for the country are absolutely enormous. We're seeing aid pouring in. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, is going to Beirut. He's already sending humanitarian assistance. The British government's offered, the US government has offered humanitarian assistance. And actually, in a remarkable move, even Israel, sworn enemy of Lebanon, the two countries have consistently gone to war with each other. Israel has offered not just medical assistance, but also humanitarian assistance. Israel even projecting an image of the Lebanese flag on a building in downtown Tel Aviv. I think it's highly unlikely that that offer will be accepted, but the need and the scale of it is enormous, and it can't come fast enough.
Yeah, countries coming together to help. Ian Pannell, thanks so much for your reporting.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.